So for those of you that were here for the NCAA presentation, this is a long night for you, so welcome. And just to let you know, we're going to be, each individual that is here tonight from the Paly guidance team will be reintroducing themselves. Yay, let's hear it from Paly guidance. First up, I want to thank the staff for being here and making this wonderful presentation. First, just some housekeeping. So, welcome to the Haymarket Theater, for those of you who've never been in the Haymarket Theater. And you're probably thinking, why aren't we at the PAC, the Performing Arts Center? That's because our wonderful production of The Miracle Worker is now set up to go. And I encourage and recommend and strongly recommend all of you to take in the great production of The Miracle Worker. So, again, good evening. My name is Katia Villalobos. Bienvenidos a Palo Alto High School. Y si tienen unas preguntas al final de esta parte de la reunión, me pueden preguntar en español. Hello again, and good evening. My name is Katia Villalobos. I'm the administrator here at Palo Alto High School, and I have the pleasure of emceeing tonight's event. On behalf of our principal, Kim Biorio, and the head of guidance, Ms. Vicky Kim, welcome to tonight's event. Tonight is Sophomore Parent Night, as you can see. We are going to discuss the sophomore level. We're going to have two of these evenings, tonight, of course, and in the spring. So I would like to introduce real quickly, and they're going to introduce themselves as they come up here and present as well. I would like to thank, first off, Mr. Matt Hall, Student Activities Director. He's also our videographer for tonight. Ms. Elizabeth Spector, our Wellness Coordinator. Ms. Susan Schultz, our Sophomore grade level counselor.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. Ms. Sandra Turner-Borney, our college advisor. All right. Ms. Ann Gettleman, who couldn't be here, but she will be here next time. Okay. Ms. Stephanie Mendoza, our other college advisor. And of course, Ms. Crystal Laguna, our outreach counselor.
Can you mention Janice, our new assistant principal?
Oh, yes. And I'm sorry she couldn't attend. She was here for the earlier presentation of the NCAA. But our newest assistant principal, Dr. Janice Chen. Okay. So tonight's agenda, please. As you can see in tonight's agenda, we will be a great overview of the wellness programs, our incredible guidance system, which is a three-tiered system, which we call the advisory program, academic planning, some graduation versus college eligibility, the incredible wealth and breadth and depth of Paly resources, post-high school options, important events and meetings, college testing, and your role, which is crucial because you're our partners in this adventure we call high school. Okay? Second semester, we will be reviewing these options. So I know that some of you maybe already have questions on that. So if you have a pen or a pencil handy, write them down and save them for early spring. Okay? The 4-year plan, course selection, typical junior schedule, so how to make up deficiencies such as our summer school program, off-campus courses, supporting all students, post-high school options, UCCSU, SAT versus ACT, subjects. Excuse me for interrupting. Oh, okay. I'm going to apologize. Okay. For a moment. Uh-oh.
Keep going. No, keep going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here. No, I got it. I got it. Pardon me as we work on some technical difficulties. So, SAT versus ACT, SAT subject test, and yes, AP classes. So, those are some of the items that we will be discussing during early spring for the second part 2 of our sophomore parent night. And do not worry, I may be speaking a little fast, or you may be, what is she talking about with all these acronyms? Not to worry, this presentation will be posted. As you can see, it's also being taped. So if you miss any part of this, or a fellow parent friend is not here, they can get this information as well, okay? So, the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank our partners in education, which is our incredible education foundation. You are a part of that foundation. We want to thank them profusely. They make up a significant portion of why we have an incredible wealth of our resources both in college and career guidance and counseling staff, as well as some of our CTE courses, which are career technical courses, that are UC approved and your students have access to. Another great partner for us that you are also partners with us is the PTSA, which is Parent Teacher Student Association. And special thanks for all your contributions to the College and Career Center. I see the wonderful volunteers. I saw a little bit of their training, so that was incredible. The travel and related costs for our advisors. They came back from actually a CSU conference today, so thank you for that. And also the support you give us for our career day. And also, in a couple weeks, that PTSA sponsors our ability to give the PSAT for all our juniors here at Paly. So thank you very much to PI and PTSA. I would like to mention is, this was actually led by a teacher, and of course she recruited other teachers, and fully supported by staff. And that is our Rise Together Scholarship Program. The majority of the funds go to cover the gap between financial aid packages, student loans, and student employment. Mentors to help them navigate through the system, transition to college, support until college graduation. Over 90% of the money raised will go directly to support our students, and we are definitely expecting a greater need for the class of 2018. So if you are able and want to support our students going on to college, please visit this website, www.risetogether.org. And again, I can't mention enough how important this is. Our students do receive some incredible packages, so sometimes it is not enough, particularly for our students that are first generation. It's a little more expensive than when you went to school, and we all went to school. So this does an incredible, incredible thing for our students and to help them understand. And for those particularly families that were not educated in the United States, this is also a great help in terms of the mentorship that goes with it. So please consider contributing to Rise Together Education. And now, I'd like to welcome again Mr. Matt Hall, Director of Student Activities and Teacher of Japanese. Sensei.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll be brief. As you can see, and as you may have heard at home, Spirit Week is coming. We are 23 days and counting. My ASP officers, all 28 of us, are preparing even now. I wanted to call attention to the dates, call your attention to the dates. Specifically, we begin float building on the Saturday and Sunday prior to the start of Spirit Week. Saturday the 21st and Sunday the 22nd from 9 to 4 in the auto shop, we'll be beginning the float building process. And I would like to cordially invite any and all of you to come and assist, if only for an hour. Help out with just tidying up, cleaning up, supervision, just keeping an eye on things, making sure kids are using their safety goggles and everybody's being safe. Even an hour, right, is a drop in the ocean of need, but that drop would be missed if it was not there. So please consider coming by and volunteering, maybe not on Saturday and Sunday. Monday through Thursday, that next week, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th, we'll be building from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the auto shop. And I gotta tell you, if you haven't seen it yet, it is a wonder to behold to see 50, 60, 100 students of a class all kind of swarming around a structure like ants and creating this gorgeous structure that, of course, you can see at the final float reveal and spirit dance on Friday, 10/27 at 3 p.m. in the football stadium. That's where the floats, you get to see them for the first time. That is also where the class does their spirit dance. Once again, it used to be just 5 girls and 5 boys from each class doing this spirit dance thing. We opened it up to everybody, and for the last 3 years, we've averaged anywhere between 70 to 100 students from a class dancing. They all choreographed together. They had a practice today out in the quad. They're working on it right now. There was one kid that was in a wheelchair. Fine, they were there. They were doing the dance. It was fantastic. So I highly encourage you to come by if you can. I know it's early in the day, but we have to get it done before that night's homecoming football game and so forth. Spirit Week t-shirts are now currently available on the Paly web store. You can go on the Paly web store and choose either, if you're going to buy one for your sophomore, of course they're there. And if you have any problems with the Paly web store, my email is there. In fact, I can give you my phone number right now. You see I'm fearless. 650-279-5334. If you have any problems purchasing an item on the Paly web store, you can call me and I can help you troubleshoot. My phone number is also written outside my door on P8, so literally everybody knows it. Let's go down finally to the homecoming dance. It will be held in our new Peary Center small gym. And it will probably be from 7 to 10. We're playing around 7:30, 10:30, probably 7 to 10. We haven't entered the tickets on the Paly web store yet, but they will also be for sale on the Paly web store. You can also buy them at the door. We'll also be selling them in the quad throughout the week. And if your student has an ASB card, they'll get a discount, right? If the tickets, say, for example, are $10, if you have an ASB card, the web store will automatically deduct $5 and cut it in half. Let me make sure I got everything. Yes? Oh, by the way, as sophomores, your students' dress-up theme this year, like for example on salad dressing day, the sophomore salad dressing is ranch. So they dress up as cowboys, so forth. So your student may be coming to you asking for cowboy gear that they will never wear again. But we are also hosting, in the next week or two, a spirit gear swap out on the quad. So you've got orange things right now, perhaps, yes? You can bring it to the quad, put it on the table, and extract one item of equal or greater value in red or in cowboy gear and so on and so forth. So that'll be happening, and we're going to be advertising on Schoology and on Facebook. If you're interested, if you want to stay up to date on what's happening with Spirit Week or with anything throughout the year that relates at all to student activities, Paly ASB on Facebook, at Paly ASB Twitter, Paly ASB Instagram, or Schoology. Keep an eye on Infinite Campus. I'll also be sending things out through the Paly link as well. I'll also be here at the end of the evening if you have any further questions, anything, not just related to Spirit Week, but anything related to student activities. I'll be here at the end of the presentation. You can grab me, corral me. Otherwise, speaking of student health and wellness, I'd like to introduce our wellness coordinator and director, Elizabeth. Come on up.
Why do we have a wellness program? Why is this important? Our mission is to enhance the delivery of comprehensive and coordinated health, mental health, substance abuse, reproductive health, and other support services within our school environments to improve the health and well-being and educational outcomes of our students. So here we have our favorite waterfall analogy. It's the upstream versus downstream. We can kind of look at this as the upstream is the lake, the midstream is kind of the rapids, and the downstream is the waterfalls. So upstream we have our outreach events that reach all students. These are things like our SEL School Connect lessons. At our midstream, our second tier, we have counseling services. These are services that reach some of our students, and then crisis intervention is our third tier. This is an intervention that reaches few of our students. So the goal is to reach the most students upstream to prevent them from moving downstream. And how do we do that? So our Wellness Center is a safe, supportive environment. It's a place where students can go to de-stress and get connected with a counselor to talk about a number of issues. We have a lot of community programming and community-based partnerships that allow us to coordinate health education, assessments, counseling, and provide support and services to maximize our students' engagement and success. And one thing that's really important is our coordination of care. So our wellness team works really closely with guidance counselors, school psychologists, and other staff and community partners to make sure that our students are well served. This is our space. This is our Wellness Center. We're located in the Tower Building across from the main office. We have a number of educational materials. We also offer snacks occasionally and tea for students. And then Here's our agreements. So students can't just walk into the Wellness Center at any time without a pass. They can drop in during flex, during preps, before and after school. If they come during class time, they need to bring a Wellness Center pass from their teacher. So there's a number of reasons why students would come to the Wellness Center. Students may come for nursing services. Our health office is located in the Wellness Center. They may come for health information and education, to get connected with mental health counseling, or to participate in a group or workshop. That's just a couple of reasons why a student may visit the Wellness Center. Our team consists of more than just our Wellness Center staff. So it's our wellness TOSAs, it's our school sites, it's our guidance counselors, it's our community partners. We have a partnership with Cassie, with Stanford, with their school-based mental health team, and with Aki as well. So students can receive a number of services, including mental health counseling, as I explained, nursing services, youth development opportunities, and services provided to youth are free and confidential, and that's really important. So one question that we often get asked is, how do I refer my student to the Wellness Center? Teachers and parents can refer a student by contacting the school counselor, school psychologist, or the Wellness Center directly, so contacting myself or our wellness outreach worker, Angelina Michael. Students can also self-refer or refer friends through the same means, so by going to their school counselor or just coming directly to the Wellness Center and self-referring. Beyond just our Wellness Center, some of our programs include living skills, we have Camp Unity, the YES program, Sources of Strength, which is a student-led group, and then, as I mentioned before, we have Paly, which is our main on-campus provider. And then this is not a comprehensive list of reasons why a student would visit the Wellness Center, but some of the reasons that we do see students for counseling are academic stress, communication with parents, peer relationships, depression and anxiety, cultural issues, parent separation, divorce, grief and loss, substance abuse, and bullying. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce your sophomore guidance counselor, Susan Schultz.
So nice to see so many of you out there. Welcome to Sophomore Parent Night. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the 3-tier guidance system. So you've heard a lot about wellness and Spirit Week and all those good things are important to us. We're really about trying to create balance, create health, create happiness, just a happy, healthy school environment. So we really want to emphasize that. It's incredibly important. We're working on building relationships, building good curriculum. We have lots of great stuff for your kids here. So, a little bit about the 3-tiered guidance system. Hopefully you remember some of this from last year. The first tier of our guidance system is a teacher advisor, or a TA. So, your students all are assigned a teacher advisor. It's somebody they meet with regularly. It's your students and your kind of primary contact person. So that's where most students, most parents go with questions. And they also conduct advisory every Thursday. Sophomores do not have advisory every Thursday. Unlike last year, freshmen had advisory every week. A little bit different for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. It rotates a bit. So what we did is we kind of listed up here some of the things we cover in 10th grade advisory. Very important things. So teacher advisors monitor academic progress. So just recently, there was a marking period within the last week. So teacher advisors are taking a look at grades and attendance and keeping an eye on that. And they help your students create a 4-year plan of study. They talk about 4-year college entrance requirements, graduation requirements, post-high school planning. All of those kind of covered in advisory. And one thing to keep in mind too, if your student does have a case manager, the case manager will work in conjunction with the teacher advisor to support you and your students. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. These are just some important advisories that we cover. It's how to read your transcript, the 4-year plan, also very important. And come February, students start planning for the next school year. So in February, we'll pick their classes for junior year. And we will talk a little bit more about classes in junior year at our Parent Night second semester. We'll talk more specifically about that. Something very important that I kind of mentioned earlier that we're adding into advisory are the social emotional lessons, social emotional learning lessons. We feel it's incredibly important when we're trying to help make students well-rounded. Very important skills for life. And also students will be learning a little bit more about Naviance too, which is a college search engine we learned that they'll use more when they're a junior and senior. And guidance counselors, that's me. So I am the second tier of the three-tiered system. So I work in conjunction with the teacher advisors and the college and career advisors, that you'll be hearing about in a minute, to support your student. So there's lots of eyes and lots of support on your students to make sure they have the help they need. Incredibly important. And these are just some of the things I do. I collaborate with everybody. I meet with students as they need it. I meet with parents with appointments. And I do encourage you always to bring your student. And just any kind of overall support anyone might need. The three tiers work very closely together. And finally, the college and career advisors. Once your students get to be juniors and seniors, actually second semester juniors, they will start meeting with our wonderful college advisors that will help them with their post-high school planning. Keep in mind, all during advisory through the course of their high school, they've been doing some post-high school planning. So once they get to be a second semester junior, they start meeting with the college advisors and talking a little bit more specific about what their post-high school plan might look like. And I mentioned this earlier, just remember if your student has a case manager, work in conjunction with the advisor, very important. And something that's come up that's been confusing to people, so we're going to try and clarify a little bit, is what an instructional leader does and how that differs from a case manager or a teacher advisor. An instructional leader is basically the head of a department. It's formally called an instructional supervisor. They are the lead teacher for that department. So every once in a while, a student or a parent is referred to the instructional leader, and it's basically old school department head. All right, and we're going to talk right now about another wonderful support service and person we have, and that's Crystal Laguna. Thanks again for coming, everyone.
Hi everybody, I'm Crystal Laguna. I'm the outreach counselor, also known as the bridge counselor here at Paly. I provide outreach for families and for students. For students to be more related to career education, community college, I also help support our first generation students during their junior and senior year. I work closely with our family engagement specialist who makes sure to help families navigate the educational system. I'm also the parent liaison for the Spanish-speaking families. So we're going to talk a little about academic planning and comparing graduation requirements with our CSU UC minimum eligibility requirements. Okay, so we're going to start with English. For English, there is a 4-year requirement for high school graduation, and to be UC CSU eligible, it's also 4 years. However, it's important to note that for graduation, you need to have at least a D- in the class, which D is for diploma, and C-, which C is for college. That's really important for our students to understand, as well as families. So if you're trying to meet eligibility, it has to be with a C- or better. For social studies, we have 4 years for our graduation requirements, so we're a little bit over on compared to CSU and UC, what they require. For math, it is also 3 years. However, as you see that the parentheses 4, that means that the CSU UC actually recommend that the students complete 4 years of math. And that math must include algebra, algebra 2, and geometry. So moving on to science. For science, we do have a 2-year requirement. The CSU UC A through G eligibility is 2 years as well, but 3 years recommended. It must include biology and physical science, so basic physics or chemistry, that would meet the physical science requirements. For world language, before the language might have been said that it would be 2 years, however now we're making sure that families understand that it is through level 2. So if your student is currently currently in Spanish 3. They definitely have met that actually requirement last year as freshmen. So making sure that it is through level 2 in the same language. For CSU UC eligibility, they do recommend 3 years. For PE, it is actually a California requirement. They do require 2 years PE. For the CSU or UC, they actually do not require any type of PE and don't take that into consideration. For visual performing arts, it is 1 year for graduation and 1 year in a semester sequence for the CSU UC. Career Tech Ed, it is a 1 year requirement for the CSU UC A3G. They do not require Career Tech Ed at all. Living skills as well as 1 semester, and the elective all the electives and credits must add up to 220 units. Don't fear, there's plenty of time to meet those requirements. Many of our students will easily fulfill that requirement. There is a 5-class minimum coming junior year. They might have a prep, so don't fear if they have 5 classes. It is just a minimum requirement that they must have those 5 classes. So talking about a few of our Paly resources, as the guidance counselor Susan will talk a little bit about advisory, we do have Flex, which one of the new things this year is actually that for students who do not have advisory on Thursday, they will be actually expected to attend Flex, so there's another opportunity for students to check in with teachers during this time. If they're not, again, they're not an advisory at that moment. We have our Wellness Center that we've discussed already. Our tutoring center is a great opportunity, our peer tutoring center, which it used to be called Academic Resource Center. It is in room 408. Please have your students take advantage of this amazing resource where they can request a tutor. There's somebody on campus. They can really work with their schedules on when they are in need or available for the meet with the tutor. Our math homework drop-ins is Monday through Thursdays, 1 hour after school. There is a math teacher there to help students regardless of the level that they are in. There's always somebody there to help out, whether it's for homework, test preparation, anything that they need during that hour after school. We have our AVID program, which I also help support our AVID students. If you have any questions, there is a handbook. Make sure that you also become familiar with Naviance. There's a lot of great resources, whether you want to know about college, any post-high school plans, career interest surveys. If they want to know more about gap years, it's a great resource to know. And again, also our Paly link. If you just want to have a weekly email to know what's going on at Paly and in the community, that's a great resource to have. It kind of just puts everything much more together and it's all in one place. And as you know, Paly.net and our Facebook page with the College and Career Center. And our YouTube videos as well. Next, I'm going to present Stephanie Mendoza, one of our college advisors.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good evening, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about what sophomore year should look like for your students. But I do want to mention a couple of things that each year is a building block for the next year. So freshman year, students transitioned into high school. They were getting to know the system here at Paly. They were getting to know the teachers. They were just transitioning from middle school to high school. Now, as a sophomore, there are a couple other things that we're going to start adding, and that would be for the students to start exploring their interests. What do they like? What are some of the subjects that they're interested in? Science, math, the humanities. So I did want to mention before I move into more specifics of sophomore year, is that in the transcript there are going to be 2 GPAs, and one of them being a weighted GPA that would add an extra point for every AP and honors classes, and unweighted, and both of them are cumulative. And for sophomore year, like I said, we want your students to start meeting new people, whether that be joining clubs, doing volunteer service in the community or outside their community. And we also want them to get involved within the community. So we want them to do something that they enjoy, not necessarily do something because they feel like they have to. And we don't want them to do it serving that community. So sophomore year, they transitioned. They now have a year under their belt. So we want them to continue to start exploring their interests. And Naviance has a great survey that they can take that has majors and careers that they can start researching. And community service hours, I wanted to mention that it is not a graduation requirement. And like I mentioned before, we want them to truly do something that they're generally interested in. And it's okay for students to change their interests because colleges want to see that the students are exploring. The colleges aren't telling them to commit to one thing and focus on that for 4 years. But if they change their mind, they change their mind and they continue to move on to try to find something that they're very passionate about. And then also sophomore year is just starting to get your teacher advisor, getting to know your teacher advisor. And for sophomore year, this is sophomore at a glance. The students will be taking the PSAT in October. They will be taking the SAT or the ACT in the spring of their junior year. Again, also doing some college research and exploration about where they may be thinking about going to college, whether that be the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest. Do they want hot or cold weather? All the other interesting things that they're going to start thinking about. So to recap this slide, we want the students to focus on the grades and the coursework and to explore life outside the classroom. Some important events we will, for students, is to attend advisory. We will be having a Naviance demo Tuesday, February 20th at 7 p.m. in the computer lab. You should have all received a Naviance login last freshman year via email. So if you do not have access to the Naviance account, contact Carla Larson and she will be able to provide that access for you. Two other events that we will be having are Career Speaker Series, second semester, and Community College Week for students in March. Now we'll present Mr. Nabourian.
Hi there. Ooh, I hope you can hear me. Hi. So, wanted to kind of talk, I know that the topic of college is always moving, and that's not necessarily a bad or a good thing. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about tonight was some of the kind of stress-inducing myths around the topic of college, in hopes that by destigmatizing some of these falsehoods, that it kind of puts both you and your students a little more at ease as you're going through sophomore year, continuing through high school, and preparing for post-high school options. So these are some common misconceptions that it takes all A's to get into a good college. That is definitely not the case. There are, first of all, over 3,000 colleges in the United States alone, and about 2,500 of which are four-year colleges and universities. And of those, 70% of them admit 70% or more of the students who apply. That's not what we hear on the news. There is a place for everyone. Students do not need to have straight A's to get into a good college. Another misconception is that if a student doesn't get into a name brand college, that they have no future, that somehow they are less than. And this is far from the truth. You probably have read, there are numerous articles, and I like to post them on the Facebook web page, on the Paly College Center Facebook page if you're ever curious. But articles from LinkedIn, Forbes, and so on, when they go back and look at some of the most successful contributors to our society, more than half have typically gone to their local public university. It is not necessary for students to go to a name brand school to receive a good education. And in fact, what makes something a good college or a good education, I'm going to touch on that in a moment. A public university will cost me less than a private one. This isn't necessarily the truth either. Private institutions typically have their own institutional funds from which to offer both need-based and sometimes also merit-based aids. In fact, the vast majority of students at private colleges are not paying the sticker price, but some discounted version, either based on their family's financial need or on the students' merits, which have qualified them for scholarship. So we definitely encourage students to look at both public and private options because life is unpredictable. And sometimes, even if you're thinking that you might want to go out of state or far away, sometimes nice to have an option that's closer to home in case something happens. Someone gets ill, someone loses a job, you know, life is unpredictable, and so we want them to consider both in-state and out-state options, as well as public and private options. And typically second semester, I host an event called something to the effect of considering going out of state. I don't have the date yet, but you can count on hearing more about that. It's usually held in February. And that's a great presentation to learn a little bit more about how to evaluate out-of-state options. Excuse me. Another myth is that the more selective a college is, the better it is. It goes back to that idea of the name brand and what makes a good college. That is not necessarily the truth. Selectivity, in short, is a reflection of popularity. It simply means the college rejects more students than it admits, that far more students who ever could be admitted into the freshman class apply. And for that reason, I'm saying that it's a reflection of popularity. That's not to say that a selective college has no worth. That's not my message at all. But rather, that what makes a college good depends on the student. And I'm going to explain how to look into that in a moment. There's also a myth that SAT or ACT scores make or break college applications. This is not true either. Colleges believe that success in high school is the strongest indicator of success in college. So looking at a student's transcript, what they've taken, how they've done, trends in their transcript, maybe room for growth or students who excel in one area over another, are all things that colleges look at and value when evaluating a student. Some colleges, and I would say many, require also standardized testing, but not every college does. There are a list of colleges that are test optional. If you want to learn more, the website is fairtest.org, and you can view the searchable list of colleges. We have a link to it on paly.net/college as well. But the point is that these institutions want to demonstrate that they value really what the other things that students bring besides their performance on a high-stakes test. In some places, that means that this is an institution that does holistic review, meaning they're asking for letters of recommendation, essays, and so on. And for some test optional colleges, they literally just say, don't send us our scores, we'll review and make a decision based on everything else. Some other test optional colleges will ask for something in lieu of test scores. For example, a graded piece of writing from high school. So, moving on. The higher the college's ranking in U.S. News and World Report, the better it is. I don't have time to go into how flawed I believe that survey is, but just know that there are lots of rankings out there. They don't always measure what you think they do, and I think that there are better ways to evaluate a college. Personally, one of the rankings that I actually like is from the National Students Survey, let me get it right, NSSE, the NSSE, National Student Survey of Student Engagement. I'm hopefully I'm getting it right. It's a student engagement survey. It has to do with students and how they report they are engaged with the faculty at their institution and the kind of success that they have as a result of being engaged in that institution. One of the books that kind of highlights colleges that score well on this survey is called The Colleges That Change Lives. It's also a website. These are colleges that, again, repeatedly students report a high level of engagement and satisfaction and success. So just to kind of give you some other tools there. My challenge is to try and get families to banish this notion of the prestige myth, that somehow prestige equates with success. I don't believe that that is true. I think that finding a college that fits is ultimately what leads to student success, and why there are so many leaders who haven't necessarily gone to a prestigious college, or college at all for that matter, and still achieved great things. And how then do you focus on college fit? Well, this requires some introspection on behalf of students. And to be honest, usually as sophomores, they're not quite there yet. But they'll get there. But I'm going to share it with you in hopes that this is something that you can use to kind of as a point of conversation as conversations about college come up in your household. So the 3 keys to college fit are an academic fit. Number 1. That is a place that offers the kind of environment your student is looking for. Are they looking for a competitive or a collaborative environment? Are they looking for an extremely rigorous environment, or one where they have the opportunity to explore and kind of chart their own path? Do they have a particular major in mind? Or does that matter? Because quite frankly, students tend to change their majors 2 to 3 times. So using that as a clear-cut criteria for determining what makes a good college might not be the best thing to focus on right now. And in fact, liberal arts institutions that focus on the core subjects teach students how to be critical thinkers, and employers always report that they make some of the best employees. Rather than being focused on learning specific job skills, they bring a different kind of approach to the workplace. That's not to say every industry wants that. There are others, of course, where you need specific major and practice and experience, but just to kind of share some options. So those are some things to think about when considering an academic fit. The second level of fit would be a social fit. This is everything from location, how far away from home, how far away from an airport or a hospital, depending on your student and his or her needs. It could be things like weather, which sometimes people scoff at, but the reality is, if your student really doesn't want to go to cold climate, there are options in warm climate as well, and they don't all exist in California. And then, what kinds of things are they looking forward to doing? Do they really want tons of school spirit or Greek life? Or are they really looking for a community where there's a strong ethics and honors code, where students are very connected to the school as opposed to as maybe a smaller group of friends, as opposed to kinds of things that are happening off campus or in a large group? There are lots of other factors that go into that too, but these are a few to get you kind of thinking about maybe what is the appropriate social fit. And then the third would be a financial fit. And as much as students know that college is expensive, I don't think they really understand how expensive it is and what that means. And this is where you as parents play a very important role in helping to identify if there are any restrictions or limitations in their college search. I think it is fair to say, if this applies to you, it is fair to say money is going to be one of the ultimate deciding factors. It might not be the defining factor, but it's going to be something our family considers. And so, You are welcome to apply to both public and private institutions, but we're going to take a look at those financial aid awards and consider them before we discuss as a family ultimately where you're going to attend. If that's true for your family, please have those conversations sooner than later. I can tell you from personal experience, there is nothing as heartbreaking as a student who gets into their dream school to be told later that their parent doesn't think that school is good enough to pay that kind of money. So I'm not trying to judge your values. I'm just simply saying, if you have some things that are important in terms of how much you're willing to pay, be upfront with that so your student knows what to expect. And there are tools you can use to help you gather this kind of information. If you go to paly.net/college on the financial aid and scholarship page, you'll find information about what's called a net price calculator. Every college in the United States is required by law to have one. And this is where students and families can enter some information about the student's academics, but a little bit also about the family's finances, and get an estimated idea as to the price that that particular family might pay for that college. You don't have to do all of this now. In fact, quite frankly, I think sophomore year, your students are still kind of adjusting and focusing really on their transcript. Exploring a little bit about life outside of the classroom is important. But I know this topic comes up, so I wanted to share some information. And while we aren't formally going to get really into the depths of that as college advisors until second semester junior year, as Ms. Schultz mentioned, students are getting this information in little increments, building upon each other in advisory. For those families who want to start doing research now, as Ms. Mendoza mentioned, you have access to Naviance. It's an online college and career exploration tool which you and your student can access 24/7. There are some advisory lessons that prompt students to take a look at things, but there's way more in there than we cover in advisory. So if you are curious to learn more, you might consider coming to the demo. Okay, the next slide here about the big six. What then makes something a good college? In addition to finding a place that really fits, where your student is going to thrive and therefore be successful, I want you to know what the research says. The research says that the key factors of a college experience that lead to student success, and what I would consider then therefore being good, are places where students who are able to make a connection with a professor and made them excited about learning. A place where the professor seemed genuinely engaged and cared about a student. And really, you know, they weren't one anonymously there, but really engaged. And sometimes at a larger school, that means that students have to play an active role in being assertive and going to office hours and meeting the professor. But these professors exist both at big and large colleges. Another key to success is finding a mentor who's encouraged students to pursue their goals and dreams. That doesn't have to be only someone at college. Oftentimes students are lucky enough to connect with folks even before. But having someone who's really willing to support them in their exploration. I hope in some ways that they look to you, parents, as their mentors as well. Someone who's going to encourage exploration and support them as they try out different things and maybe try to work towards a goal and celebrate successes and kind of reset over challenges and reiterate that a setback is just one step getting closer, that actually experiencing a setback is helpful in their development. Working on a long-term project, whatever that is, it certainly doesn't need to be academic. As you know, students get passionate about all sorts of things and work with professors on that, or work with other students, or take on leadership roles and rally other students to work on a project. And we at Paly see that they do this a lot in their local community as well. a job or an internship, this is huge. It does not need to be some fancy job. The students who work at John the Juice over the summer are learning some really important skills. I just had a conversation last week with one of my seniors who said it was one of the best experiences he ever had. From my perspective, you have to show up and put up when you have a kind of public service job like that. Those are good skills to learn. And there's a value in students being evaluated or trusted or given responsibilities outside of an academic setting that's really empowering and encourages confidence. And finally, involvement in extracurricular activities. It says here extensive involvement, but I would probably rephrase it. This is what the survey said. But I don't know that it needs to be extensive, meaning lots of different things or like 300 hours worth. What I consider is someone who's gone deep and they used this extracurricular experience, whether it's through sports or playing piano or volunteering or working, where the students have found meaning and that meaning has given them a sense of joy almost, a sense of purpose. That's super useful. So the kinds of skills we hope your students are learning, both in the classroom and outside the classroom, are often ones that aren't necessarily linked to specific jobs, or they're for jobs that, as you know, in this region, that don't even exist yet. So creative thinking, collaborative work, interdisciplinary thinking, and leadership, which is defined very broadly. And also, in addition to being a leader, being able to follow. These are things that colleges value and that employers value. And in short, when thinking about how students are going to apply to college, this is what makes a compelling applicant, that they're able to express how their involvement highlights these kinds of things that brought them a sense of purpose or confidence or joy. Getting back to what Ms. Mendoza said, I mean this in the most genuine way. There's not a value from colleges that think flipping burgers is not as great of a job than having an internship at Stanford. Seriously. They're both valuable experiences. So I just want to kind of, like I said, introduce this idea as we start to think about college. Your role is part of your student support team. We've mentioned this before. I think being informed can be super helpful. Ms. Schultz went over some of the advisory lessons. If you're curious to know about specifically when those lessons are being offered, on paly.net/guidance, you'll find an advisory calendar. Paly.net/college is content rich. You could kind of get lost in a wormhole exploring how much is there. But we try to have the side navigation menu kind of draw to common topics that can help you there. Your teacher advisor, your student's teacher advisor is a key part of this team, especially as a sophomore, as this is now the person who's going to follow them the next 3 years and support them through the college exploration and application process. The daily bulletin these days is on In Focus, our video news, if you will, but it is recorded, and so you can always take a look at that on In Focus's website. When I have sent announcements to In Focus for students, I also typically send them to the Paly link, which is that PTSA subscription. So I'm trying to keep you in the loop about opportunities and especially parent education evenings. Naviance we've talked about already. The Viking Guide, especially for those of you who maybe were not educated in the United States, in terms of your college experience, the Viking Guide is essentially Paly's version of how to know what there is to do in preparation for college. This is a physical book that students get in second semester of junior year, but it's online. And so if you want to familiarize yourself with some of the terms used in college admission or learn more about testing and so on, The Viking Guide is available on paly.net/college. It's a great resource. We do have on YouTube some presentations and also some screencasts where I demo some tools, and then I mentioned Facebook is where I post some articles. So lots of ways to stay informed and support your student. I don't know how many of you are willing to do this homework, but I'm assigning homework. No, seriously, I know that not everybody has the time, but I feel like parents are often hungry for information. So in addition to the resources we have at Paly, I wanted to give you some outside resources to consider as well. So there's a reading list here. The College Center has copies of these books so your student can check it out. If you're not interested in buying it, you'll also find these at your local library. I think, as I mentioned before, that whole kind of financial fit and understanding financial aid, if you want to learn more, looking at the net price calculators or maybe the FAFSA forecaster can be useful as well. So that concludes the formal portion of our presentation. Thank you very much. We're going to transition to questions in a moment. For those of you who need to leave, please feel free. And we'll reconvene in just a minute. Thank you. I will.
Thank you again for coming. Again, if you have questions, please come a little closer. The one thing I would ask about the questions is, can you please keep them general? And if you have specifics, you can always contact us individually about your individual student. But we have, again, please keep your questions general. That way we can see if other people have the same question, and it is typically the case. Okay. Anyone have a question? I can start from here and kind of move over. Anyone here have a question? Okay. Anyone here have a question? Yes, sir.
So the teacher advisors who work with our kids now in 10th grade, the same individual all the way through?
Yes, your student will have the same advisor 10 through 12, unless there is a change of the advisor. You know, if a teacher leaves or, you know, retires, all right? But the idea is for that teacher advisor or TA to be with your student for 3 years.
And the slide said that they write the letter of recommendation for college admission, or they curate which teacher to work with in the recommendation?
No, the teacher advisor will be writing the letter of recommendation.
Well, can I clarify?
Yeah.
Sorry. So there are different types of letters of recommendation. The one that the teacher advisor writes is considered the counselor report or school report. It's a big picture letter of the student. It is different from a teacher recommendation, which is about student in the classroom and focused on academics. So the teacher advisor letter is more broad and provides a contextual piece about our school, the student's role in the school, and they might curate information provided for student, parents, and other folks.
So it sounds like the relationship then, it's important that they're aware of the student's extracurricular activities, etc.
As a matter of fact, there is a process on how the TA will get to know your student through the course of the next 3 years. Everything in the advisory, that's why it's very important that your student attends advisory. And actually the teacher advisor will let them know what kind of pieces of information he or she needs to write that broader conceptual letter in that thing. So it is very important. So that relationship, you are correct, is important. Anybody else in here? Okay, moving over here. Okay, yes.
Can you speak a little about the trade-off of what to do in summer between some of maybe the summer courses that Paly offers versus some other volunteer activities or jobs or other things?
Well, you know what? Okay, the first part of that answer is really easy. It's dependent on your student, of course. In terms of summer school, funny you should say, I used to be in charge of it. So summer school, for the most part, is for students to make up credits. So for the most part, we hope that your children will not be attending summer school. That's not to say it isn't great and all, but it is not for advancement except for a couple of classes. And you get more information about that sometime late November, early December, in terms of what is being offered. And then you'll be getting emails through the principal that's in charge of over that summer program. In terms of what options are out there, if your child has a question, you know, they can always ask about volunteer. There's some information on the website. Jobs definitely is always a good thing. We do have what we call a work experience teacher, and that work experience teacher has developed a lot of relationships with local people that are hiring. She consistently puts, what board does she put it on?
The job board right outside the college.
Okay, the job board right outside the college center. There's also many universities now and colleges and other programs and internship programs do advertise. Those are typically not endorsed by us, but there are examples that we do share with you.
I just
and are
have
posted.
one. We post enrichment opportunities in the Naviance enrichment database, which is, again, we do not endorse any of these. We simply provide a place to store them so families can look at various opportunities. There are a whole host of things based on interest.
The one thing I would definitely recommend is that your student obviously really seeks that enrichment opportunity or that job or that internship that they are passionate about. And I'll just be blunt, it is not about building the resume. It's, I want your son and daughter to start seeing if they're really interested in something, all right? As a sophomore, maybe not yet, you know, maybe next summer is the first time they can get a job, and John Juice is great. Learns about being on time, knowing how to work with the public, interpersonal skills. Trust me, those are things that later in life become very important. Yes?
For the second language, the sophomore students are too late to change a different language?
No, students can change. If your sophomore is changing over, more than likely, obviously, well, not obviously, more than likely will go to level 1. If a student started this year, they could still do the 2 years, or they can change over to starting as a junior, and they will still complete their 2 levels within the 4 years of being here. That is a possibility, and if there are other options, you can always talk about it to the counselor or to the TA.
But what if the student has multiple languages? So then how do you calculate which one you will become as official?
This is probably a more specific question about the subject tests and questions, Sandra, you may get. Sure. Unless it's changed, they can take the test.
Our language requirement anyway, it's a moot point.
Yeah. So the graduation credit is to have a world language through level 2. There can be done by taking classes. Some students start in middle schools, others start in high school, but through level 2. In fact, for the UCs and CSUs, level 2 is also the requirement, a recommendation of level 3. That's it. That's the requirement. Any additional languages or additional years is because the student has an interest and an inclination and probably a strength in that area. So which one really depends on your student and which one they'd like to pursue. Is that the question?
Yeah, but do we selection. So should we have some official document that say something?
There's the official document that talks about the world language they've studied is the high school transcript. That's the official document. Colleges don't need anything else. That's what you need, the student needs to graduate, and that transcript has become part of college applications. So really that's it.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The weighting of the GPA, how does Paly treat the GPA? Is it weighted, unweighted? Does that change?
The transcript now reports to GPAs, weighted and unweighted. All right, that's it. It's weighted and unweighted.
So if it's an honors class, you get an extra point.
It would be on the 5-point scale. Yes. And an AP class. Yes, that is correct. Paly now reports, well, Paly and Gun now report weighted 2 GPAs on the transcript, a weighted GPA, and an unweighted GPA. Honors classes and AP classes are out of the 5-point scale, non-AP, non-honor out of the 4-point scale.
Yes, starting in freshman year.
Yeah.
For this class.
So this class that took them last year, they are weighted.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So for the UC system requirements for math, it's in parentheses, I saw on the slide, it says that they have to have algebra, geometry, and I think was it
Algebra 2.
Through Alto 2.
Okay, so my son, who is a sophomore here, starting here this year, he actually came from an international baccalaureate program where they teach things differently, math differently. So he doesn't officially, he's in trigonometry now and algebra 2, but he has never had like official, like algebra 1.
He's already met the requirement, ma'am. He's met the requirement.
That's
If a
fine.
student is in trig analysis or above algebra 2, the assumption is that student has already met the requirement.
And I would just add, if it's at an international school, they're more likely to do integrated math.
Yeah.
Then the UC and other colleges are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Because they realize they might do all 3 subjects in the same year. That's perfectly fine. It's included. And the fact that they're in higher level math covers the previous level.
Exactly. So they already know that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Question about this. I heard about the seal of bilinguality.
Yes.
Do you have any information about that, or should one go online and look and learn about it?
We do have a seal of biliteracy, and there's just actually it's automatically done for the student. So it is the seal is actually automatically put onto their diploma. They meet it by several ways. So we basically look at the list, calculate, and then we give them the seal. It's not an application process, it's none of that. Oh, a seal of biliteracy basically recognizes the student is proficient in a language, in another language other than English. And so, for example, there's several ways to meet that. She was wondering how it's met, and I said it's not an application process. We just look at the components that go into the seal, and we basically grant them in, and then that's it. And then officially, it's going to be placed onto the high school diploma. And that basically signifies that the student is proficient at another level in another language other than English.
What is the requirement?
There's several ways to do them. One of them is through the levels that you take, the levels, or in previous languages. For example, we have many students here who have taken another language, at a very young age or have lived abroad. And so it's basically what levels, an exam, I'm trying to think of the third one.
It's SAT.
Yeah, SAT, subject 2s. As long as they score at a certain level, then we can grant them that level of biliteracy. And, the students can report that they will be eligible for that. Yes?
Where do we get a transcript? I have to request it?
The transcript, yes, the transcript can be requested. And you can actually, is it just talking to Ms. Brown, or we don't know?
So the way to get or to preview the transcript, students can create an account on Parchment.
Oh, yeah.
If you go on Paly.net, look under students. Under students, look for transcript. We partner with a company called Parchment, and they create an account and request what's called a self-view. But students also get an unofficial copy every year in advisory.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you typically recommend for preparation for the PSAT and the other tests?
Well, the PSAT, they get basically a booklet, and there shouldn't actually be a preparation. I know that there are vendors out there that do this preparation, but in terms of, I cannot recommend or endorse any of those as a school or as a district. But the booklet alone does give you an indication of what areas are going to be covered. So I'm going to leave that decision up to your family if you want your child to do some type of preparation work. All right? I'm sorry. Yes?
I have a question about the...
I'm sorry?
I have a question about the various tests and when and how you sign up for them. So, for example, our kids took biology freshman year, and then in May, we found out that a bunch of students were taking the subject test, and my student wasn't aware of it at all, and neither were we, the parents. And so it turned out in her class, the teacher didn't talk about it, mention it, nothing. Whereas in some other classes, they were perhaps kind of guided and made aware of the subject test.
Just to clarify, your student was in an AP class?
No, just regular biology.
Okay.
Biology.
You're talking about the subject test?
Yeah, the city subject test. So I'm wondering, for all the tests, do we, as a community, need to figure out when they are ready to sign up and we have to take them, or is there going to be some guidance from the school?
That's a good question. Most of our teachers are not going to be telling you to take a subject 2 test, particularly at the end of their freshman year. And that's typically not, I shouldn't say norm. I know that there are students who do take those subject 2s for various reasons, but there is no blanket recommendation that we are giving for students to take those subject 2s in any recommendation or anything that I've seen from guidance.
So you can find more information about SAT subject tests on Paly.net/college under the testing link. Probably more than you'll ever want to know. But you can find information there. SAT subject tests, the vast majority of colleges do not require subject tests. It used to be that the UCs did, and so this topic came up all the time. Typically, students who are going to take a subject test do it towards the end of the school year when they are enrolled in the subjects, when it's an honor or AP class. So the vast majority of freshmen would not have been in an honors or AP class, and therefore were probably not told or recommended to look into them. That would be my guess. You will get an email from me at the end of sophomore year, because it is more typical, and I'll talk about this more in our presentation in second semester, it is more typical that there are at least a few sophomores who might be in a position to do well on a subject test. So you'll get an email reminder, it just goes blanket out to all senior parents, sophomore parents, alerting you to that.
Should be the last question, so we have open house.
Yes?
So, what is your opinion on college admissions consultants that are retained by parents? What percentage of Paly?
I'm gonna ask.
Actually use them. Sandra.
I'm going to ask Ms. Turner-Horney to answer that question.
Sure.
As I have a very specific opinion, maybe I just shouldn't share it.
That's fine.
So in general, I'm not sure that they're needed, but I'm not going to judge you if you want. Does that make sense? I think there's a lot of support at Paly, and we try to scaffold the information to students in such a way that it's not overwhelming and it builds on top of each other as it's age appropriate. That's, as a guidance department, what we do. So for many students, I don't think they actually need it. If you are considering it, I think you need to be really cognizant of your expectations and communicate them explicitly. I also think you need to do your research to make sure any folks that you hire are part of their professional organizations, are active members of HECA, which is the kind of professional organization specifically for educational consultants. I would also ask for references and check them. And again, I think the whole thing about expectations is super important. We, at the end of senior year, asked students how many of you used an independent college counselor. They say yes or no. And then how many of you would recommend using that person again, and the number drops dramatically. I get it. There's a lot of anxiety on this topic, and often, quite frankly, if people have the means, this provides a level of comfort sometimes. If you're looking to have advice from someone weekly, for someone on the weekends or at night, I can't help you. So you might need to hire someone. But if you're, willing to work kind of within our established system and see how it goes and identify if there are possible areas where you might need more assistance, especially knowing your individual student, that might be appropriate. But I have to tell you, as many students who have good experiences, I hear also the bad ones. There's some misinformation. There's also, unfortunately, a practice where often they make up information. They'll tell students this is the deadline when it's a totally different deadline because they want Paly to behave in a way that suits them. We have a process, and this is my main message. We have a process, and no matter whether you have an independent college counselor or not, you have to follow our process. We've been doing this a long time, and this is what works for us and our students to support them the best. So my pet peeve is these counselors who make up deadlines or requirements, ask students to do things that are just not appropriate. The other thing is, please keep in mind that in the college application process, if the admissions office has questions, they're not calling your independent college consultant. They're calling someone at the high school. So if you hire one, that is not a substitute for what we have at Paly. Your student still needs to go to advisory, still needs to get to know their TA, still needs to meet with their college advisor and their guidance counselor, respond to call slips when the guidance department says, hey, we have a question. They can't check out.
That's why she does it.
All right, we're gonna head to the College Center. For those of you who just wanna see the space, there's no program. It's just an open door for you to see what's there. Thank you for coming in, everyone.